Okay, look. You
Me,
allegedly have degrees in writing
me,
and
me,
history, correct?
me,
So one would assume that you'd be open to rational thought.
me,
Now, because there's nothing here that concerns you,
me,
you know absolutely nothing about the subject matter and what's being talked about,
me,
and this in general has nothing to do with you,
me,
why don't you simply leave, stop inserting yourself where you have no business being, and we can end this amicably?
me,
Okay
talk about
then,
me, talk about me,
let it never be said that I
me,
never tried
me,
diplomacy.
me, me, me.
Hello, I'm the Angry Spork.
After 10 stories reimagining 10 of DC's vast collection of characters, we've arrived at the final installment, with John Cassidy and Alex Sinclair along for the ride.
Let's wrap up this affectionate experiment with Just Imagine Stan Lee's Crisis and see if this comic makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads.
The cover is like a collage of character profiles done in pencil. I don't think it's bad, considering the context of the forthcoming story. It's a kind of subdued, tense feeling before the big battle begins. Though Flash and Robin's heads are cut off, and you can barely discern that Aquaman is there at all. We begin with all 10 characters getting headshots on the side, as within the Museum of Antiquities, Catwoman is pursuing a thief that's absconded with one of the Incan Hawk runes, which we first saw in Wonder Woman. The partially obscured culprit, most likely Robin given the tank top and bandana, flips his way up a statue to a skylight. Catwoman doesn't want to damage the artifact by following, but just to be sure, I guess, the thief shoves the statue over and it falls to the ground. Guess she didn't think to climb the walls. Catsy promises Diana Prince to get the crook. I guess they're on a first-name basis somehow, some win. In a glowing show of faith, the curator calls someone else. "Hello, Maria. We need you." And in no time, Wonder Woman arrives.
So all of a sudden, Diana knows Wendy's secret identity, even though we've never seen them interact, and the only connection they have is Steve Trevor, who died before he could really get the word out about the new sun goddess in town. If you think this little discrepancy is going to get explained later in the book, no, it won't.
Being told what was stolen, she realizes this endangers the planet. Since purple energy masks it from her detection, she uses her golden shield, even though it's been her golden staff that's the source of her power, to summon the greatest heroes of all. The rest of the JLA, as well as the newer heroes, appear on a 2-page spread.
Which would be awfully inconvenient if any of them were in the middle of crime fighting. And then you gotta consider that some of them might have been in their civilian identities, grocery shopping, making dinner, teaching a class, when they were suddenly magically summoned and suited up.
Though Sandman seems to have Dominic Dark as a stowaway, still with his funky metal mask, and Robin, the guy who just left with his ill-gotten gains. Unfortunately, things don't start off well. Salden decides he doesn't like the red gargoyle dude. Sheesh, no one tell him about that Disney cartoon. And their subsequent brawl needs to be broken up by Green Lantern. Wendy, who seems to know Sandman's name already, asks why he's got Dark with him, but the astronaut isn't saying. She says that they're all a team, equals among equals, and those that don't respect that can leave. So, in a manner more eloquent than in his own story, Sandy explains that Dark planned to open a portal so his master, Crisis, could merge Earth with his own conquered universe, Dreamworld.
And the continuity's gotten pretty shaky here, because last time we saw Sandman, he left Dark behind in the Church of Eternal Empowerment to take his would-be girlfriend clothes shopping when Crisis himself exploded onto the scene.
He also senses evil within Robin, but Batman defends the kid, saying he broke free of Dark's control and is one of them. But Rob is tired of all this and doesn't need Bats' defense, since he considers them all a bunch of clowns. He even goes so far as to accuse the champion of Dreamworld of being the very threat he's warning of, leading GL to again use Yggdrasil as a get-along tree on this bickering pair. When Sal and Shazam try to take this opportunity to fight some more, Aquaman summons the water from underneath the pipes to cool them off, since they have a world to save. Clearly not the museum, though. Flash makes a crack about this very comic book trope, where the heroes meet up and duke it out before joining forces. Not unlike what she said in the JLA story.
In this world, comic book superheroes seem to have existed long enough that even the characters that don't actually seem to read them not only liken themselves and their experiences to those comics, but also sometimes take advice from them. So, at this point, why is Flash still surprised that her life is playing out like a comic book?
Tempers are cooled for now, though Shazam is still keen on fighting Supes again once the mission's complete. And speaking of, the S scar on his face seems to be even more expansive than before. I don't remember it going across his lips in previous comics. Though Batman insists they all need to get used to each other, there is still some very Robin-centric tension, and not all of it because of his bad attitude. In an interesting nod in Flash's panel here, it looks like a lightning bolt evocative of the classic Flash, but in Robin's, it's an extension of a pointed silhouette shared by bats. Nothing major, just an artistic choice, I noticed. Lantern says that Dark is little more than a husk now, but his actions still endanger the planet. And then the husk starts gloating.
He starts monologuing.
With his dying breath, Dark says that his chosen child, using male pronouns, so figure he has a son, will pave the way for Crisis upon receiving the sapphire amulet of Ranagar, and becomes unstoppable. And so will begin the infinite era of Crisis.
Yeah, but once he finds out his brother Adam Strange had it before him, he'll get all moody and bitter and say it's a hand-me-down totem of immense power, and instead decide to write a memoir on how you didn't do enough to encourage his evil.
Detecting Dark's death, Madame Xanadu is tasked with making sure the now different-looking amulet makes it to the child it's destined for. But she doesn't know if it's Mark Merlin or Tommy Tomorrow. Both of them appear from behind her, Tommy attacking the headmistress and Mark taking the amulet, because a girl can't handle that kind of power.
Hey! You can swear your allegiance to dark and evil forces. You can bring destruction down on unsuspecting innocents, but I will not stand by and let you insinuate that the fair sex is incapable of being just as horrific and villainous as you. I thought we were past all this. It's whatever year this is.
Neither of you deserve such power, and neither shall have it. Which is what Xanadu says before she opens a portal and sends them into the Phantom Zone, while Mark is still grasping the coveted necklace. Because Madame X is smart like that, I suppose? And yes, I used air quotes. This cosmic-looking limbo realm is home to a being called the Phantom Stranger, who, despite being unable to leave, sleep, or dream, is surprisingly knowledgeable. He knows that neither of these orphans are the scion of Dark, and in fact can tell Tommy's been adopted by a dream demon, which he proves by reaching into her mouth and just pulling it right out.
First, boundaries. At least show some certification from the American Dental Association. And second, this seems to be less like adoption and more like possession, but maybe he was being cheeky.
The demon now reduced in size, disappearing, I can't tell. The stranger moves on to Mark, confirming that he is indeed the son of the legendary wizard Merlin, something joked about in the Robin story. The original plan was that the kid would be put in suspended animation until Shazam awoke, and Mark would lead the demon against Morgana Le Fay, but Dark got to him first and turned him to his evil side. So, bad fathering all around. Containing a small amount of Crisis's own energy, the amulet can only unleash its full power when around the neck of the child Dark had with the daughter of Crisis. The stranger says he's the son of Dark and Morgana, and on Earth was known as Adam Strange.
Huh. Well, he did say he was going to find a way to survive, and it looks like he followed up on it. And it also appears that banishment to another realm and being turned into some kind of weird Gumby-like creature has really mellowed him out since last we saw.
Mark's fed up and decides to grab back the amulet to return to Earth, which Stranger seems pretty indifferent to, though noting he'll be too late and the grandchild of Crisis has split the portal, whatever that means. On a splash page, we see a more detailed shot of Crisis towering over LA with a pair of mushroom clouds in its wake. I don't know about you, but I'm kinda getting a Brainiac vibe off this design. And that's when we return to the Justice League of Arguments, where Milana arrives from the furthest reaches of Dreamworld, though she was in the waking world last we saw, and she formally calls herself Oracle, and now her hair looks even more like Starfire's. Man, Dick Grayson would probably be having a fit right now. Anyway, she says that while the power of Crisis is nigh limitless, their one hope is removing 5 Dreamworld sapphires from various pieces of armor. Though Superman is oddly distrustful of a female arriving out of left field, they're kind of on a time limit, so they split into teams of 2, each pair taking a different armor.
Anyone else find it weird that Robin and Catwoman are being teamed up, given the chase we saw at the beginning? I mean, you could argue that she never got a good look at his face, and since Diana Prince has just up and left, there's no one to really identify him. Except there should be some recognition of his clothes. It wasn't exactly pitch black in the museum when she was chasing him, and even if it was, Catwoman has night vision.
While Crisis begins screwing with reality, and man, from this angle his helmet makes him look like an extra for cats, Mark Merlin appears before the League, saying that the amulet indicates one of them is a traitor. Then the trinket summons Morgan Le Fay, who wants to reunite with her beloved son Mark. Wow, the pacing sure did shift into a higher gear all of a sudden. She admits to being Dark's consort and servant of Crisis, but she figures the world is doomed, what with the traitor in the JLA, and hugs her son so they can take refuge in Oblivion? Unless that's an ominous name for an alternate dimension, I don't see that as a great alternative. And if she were my mom, I would insist she wear a shirt before any hugging happened, end of the world or not. They fade away, but allegedly by the hand of Crisis, who apparently no one noticed busts through a wall as he takes possession of the amulet. The League attacks, and Crisis counters by showing them their worst nightmares. Flash's speed causing rapid aging, Superman witnessing his nemesis killing Lois Lane the same way as his wife, Sandman seeing Milana at the mercy of the resurrected Brian, now a dead man, and the more hilarious one of Catwoman's cat Ebony having been devoured by Dinah Drake's canary.
When Tweety Bird cartoons get real dark.
I do think it was kind of unnecessary to specify which gem each Leaguer was going for when they were hit with this nightmare scenario. We were already told who was going after what gem, so it feels like padding. Though at least the phrasing gets changed up some. Also, an odd reading order, as the narration that starts in Superman's panel is at the far right and continues to the left. You kind of get led there by the first panel's dialogue, but it seems weird to me still. Instructed to use his gem because he always needs to be told, Sandman creates a stasis field, opposing the forces of Crisis's gems. He also figures that by witnessing each other's nightmares, they can zero in on their betrayer, but we only see him witness Robin's vision of his childhood crush Beth about to be actually boot-crushed by Crisis, and he just stands there, proof enough of treachery for Salden, who plans to attack the kid, but Rob grabs Sandman's amulet and aims at him as the alien advances.
That's it, you crummy hunk of crud!
After being engulfed in green light, with the magic gauntlet I thought only Sandman could use, Superman disappears, but Robin explains he just sent him back to his home planet. He'd always complained about hating Earth and thinks this works out for everyone.
Yeah, but last we saw him in Secret Files and Origins, he was respectful, contrite. He was more honorable than he was before. It showed some kind of character development. But I guess there was some regression involved between then and now because his bad attitude and negative mannerisms resurfaced, and I guess so did his desire to return home.
Though it raises the question of how Robin knew about that in the first place. I doubt Supes would be as popular a hero as he's been if it was publicized that he had a contempt for the planet he was protecting. Anyway, Robin accuses Sandy of being the spy, but not knowing that he's projecting his memories for the League to see. Specifically the theft of the Hawk Totem. Because that thought projection is a thing that Sandy can do now. When asked why he took it, he claims it was to keep it away from Sandman, who wanted to become more powerful than Crisis, an accusation that does not go over well with one Mr. Wilton. Claiming to know stuff about all the League, He read up on Oracle in particular while at the orphanage, saying she's Dark's ex-wife and the daughter of Crisis.
Alright, did Stan just binge watch a bunch of soap operas before writing this script? Or at least sitcoms that were doing parodies of soap operas? Because the frequency of revelations is nearing comical levels. And I'm not saying that because this isn't a comic book.
Larry's not keen on believing this, since his longtime dream girl saved his life and rebelled against Crisis, but she confirms it's all true. That's when the League pounces on him and Robin takes his gem, which then starts turning purple. Unfortunately, this breaks the stasis field and allows Crisis to continue his assault.
The others are doomed, but Batman can still slip away.
Now that's heroic. Nope. That's our Batman! Most of the team is then absorbed into the Cosmic Sapphires, and Crisis shrinks in size to bestow the coveted Ranagar amulet upon Robin, the destined child of Dark and Milana. He then turns to his daughter and demands her obedience, saying her rebellion is over. And she is strangely cool with it. Robin is set to be the next and mightiest Death Lord ever, with unlimited power to rule over the merged Earth and Dream World. This brings us to Part 3, where Saladin is on his home planet, that now has a name we can pronounce, Krypton. Not as impressive as we were led to believe. However, Sal isn't exactly jumping for joy, because he wanted to get back his way, not because an Earther transported him there.
Right, it would have been so much more satisfying if you'd completed the arduous task of eliminating all of planet Earth's conflict, then waiting who knows how long for Earth's space program to build a craft advanced enough to get you back with the same space-time bending gimmick that stranded you in the first place. Yeah, you totally deserve to be angry right now.
Deciding crime on his own planet would be too dull compared to working on Earth, and Lois was getting to him. Maybe he means growing on him? He lands in a spot where they originally found the radioactive energy stuff, kryptonite, and just by happenstance, I guess, they found more. He finds a piece and concentrates real hard on Yggdrasil, convinced there's a connection. And that does the trick, as he's teleported right to Batman's side. It's up to the two of them to free their comrades from the Sapphires of Crisis, and the first step, apparently, is for Bats to grab Wonder Woman's golden staff, because now it has the same worthy rules as Thor's hammer, I guess. He concentrates and melds his mind with the JLA's loyal allies, the members of the great and varied human race. And hey, the homeless dude from the Sandman comic made the cut. Good for him. But I guess so did Joe, the editor-in-chief of Fly-By-Night Comics, so I don't know what to think. As green energy begins linking every human on the planet, Superman torpedoes for Crisis, only to get absorbed. Which he wanted to happen, as he still had the kryptonite with him. The rock's effect staggers Crisis enough for the League to explode out of the gems. Before Crisis can strike back, it's time for Robin to come into his own. I honestly can't tell if that means he's going to attack his grandpappy or the League, but either way, he intends to use the ink and hawk rune he stole, and among the crowd gathered outside the museum is Beth, pleading with Rob not to go through with it. They were friends and maybe could have been more. But Rob just blasts her with the amulet, saying he doesn't have any friends.
Taking that whole keep people at a distance to protect yourself emotionally thing a bit far, aren't we?
Weird how the energy is yellow when up to now the evil side was always emphasizing purple. Well, Batman decks him, causing him to drop the rune, so naturally it shatters, then mutates Robin into a Hawkman, because there are a few DC characters not yet given the Stan Lee treatment. Crisis has recovered and attacks, with the magical man-bird to aid him against the League. The interdimensional tyrant seems to take out the entire team with an energy blast, but we only get descriptions for 3 members, and then some vague silhouettes that are largely debris and probably not skeletons. However, just as the Despot is reveling in victory, Green Lantern, the first to fall, is imbued with green energy, apparently from the other heroes, giving him a supercharge. Did Stan watch Dragon Ball Z while writing this? He summons Yggdrasil, which ensnares Hawkman into its limbs and takes him underground. The hole begins glowing, and inside is seen the shape of a human embryo, which grows rapidly and focuses its gaze on Crisis. Why does it fill every fiber of my being with nameless dread?
Are you afraid of having to change diapers? I know being a new parent isn't easy, but responsibility seldom is.
From the shimmering opening rises not Robin nor Hawkman, but Atom, whose power dwarfs the supers around him, and with a swirling sash that works with any occasion. What, you're gonna argue with him? Crisis offers him an unpaid internship to conquer the universe, but calling anyone master doesn't fly with Robin 3.0, so he just makes Crisis go away. Vaporizing him, throwing him into another dimension, it's not clear, only that he dominated a foe that the JLA barely withstood. So the team asks if he's their ally, or a foe that would menace mankind. Batman objects to the intensity of GL's phrasing, and Detective Kevin King, speaking for the non-powered types, says that regardless of Atom's power, if he stands against the League, humanity will fight alongside them. Now apparently speaking from his heart, or something, Lantern says the truly powerful needn't prove anything, and offers Atom a place on the team, an equal among equals. Begging or threats would have been in bad form, but because their request was honorable, sure, he'll join up and probably win all their future battles for them. And so the comic and this saga closes with a splash page of the team standing together, ready to battle future threats alongside humanity as a Justice League for all.
And we'll all basically forget that the new guy murdered a woman. So that was Stan Lee's Crisis. Now,
me.
Ooh, that's it. Where's my woman stick? Are you kidding me? Really? Non-violent? I've tried everything else. I don't see how you expect me to get rid of the...
Me.
Huh. Didn't see that coming. But nor am I surprised.
In all honesty, there were a lot of glaring inconsistencies here. Salden reverted to an arrogant jerk. Crisis seemed to have arrived a second time. Sandman's demeanor actually improved over the callous flirt he was before, though his personality was pretty bare minimum. Pacing was certainly an issue, as it kind of hit fast forward to, I guess, just get rid of certain supporting characters. We rushed through Mark and Morgana, which means we had yet another teacher-mentor romance with Merlin. Tommy Tomorrow is revealed to have been possessed this whole time. Adam Strange changed into a Gumby creature, and we never see either of them again. Sal finally gets home, but decides to immediately go back to Earth, which I suppose kind of makes sense if he has no other family, but his anger about being dropped there by Robin was 3 flavors of irrational. If it had been based on a desire to protect Earth, help out people that he'd grown to respect, that would have been an improvement, not just for the story, but also the character. Then you have Robin himself. You could say that in his own story he was troubled, misguided, conflicted, which makes it all the more baffling that he sides with Crisis and seems to kill the woman he had feelings for.
We also get something of a retread of what happened in the JLA story. Heroes unfamiliar with one another being at odds before working together. Except we didn't get much of that last part here.
They hardly do anything. The second they try to fight Crisis, he overwhelms them, and that robs us of the chance to see anyone really use their unique skills as a team. Sure, we the reader have seen them do it, but as the epic finale to this grand experiment, it honestly feels undercut that one gesture from Atom and the day is won. Maybe Stan did watch some DBZ. Heck, the fight never seems to move outside that room in the museum, except for maybe a couple of scenes. It feels a little confining for a threat to all of reality. And I'm not sure why Milana gets to be on the team. Yeah, she did rebel against her dad, but the second it seemed he'd won, she wasted no time into submitting to his rule. While Sandman just stood there like a goon for some reason, not absorbed into the gems, but neither putting up any kind of fight. They could have done more to emphasize the impact humanity had winning the day, since mankind's potential as a unified force for good was alluded to in previous chapters almost as much as Crisis himself.
I liked the art style well enough, no real complaints to be had there, though I think there's something to be said about the Atom starting out as an embryo. Someone distrusted was exposed to the Tree of Life, a connection between man and nature, mentioned throughout numerous fates, only to emerge as a new life with limitless potential while faced with possible opposition, still choosing to side with good based on merit. The power of new life allowed to grow.
Though, what of Stan's reinventions overall? The stories have a certain dated quality to them, be they references, slang, explaining things as they're happening, repetitiveness, or the odd use of the term female. It wasn't meant to be condescending or insulting, it just seems odd to me. And speaking as someone who has read some older Stan Lee stuff, I understand that it's not everyone's cup of tea. I find it a struggle to read some old Fantastic Four myself. That wasn't strictly Stan, but rather the period he worked and lived in. And this little universe does have its own continuity problems, and things happening or being explained out of convenience.
That all being said, it delivers exactly what it promises. Had history been different, and Stan Lee was tasked with molding these characters in his own way.
For all the faults with the technical elements or sometimes the characters themselves, these feel like solid origins. I could see these characters being carried on by other writers to this day, if under different names. With a little tweaking and polishing here and there, these characters could have gone beyond this hypothetical scenario, though some would need more alterations than others. You also feel the love Lee had for the medium, the fun he had working on it, and the respect he had even for his competitors. These stories work in part because it was done with full awareness that they weren't going to reinvent the wheel or try replacing classic icons. There was no delusion that they were making things better just by changing them, and it felt like these origins had actual foundation, something that even modern-day writers have a struggle to really grasp.
Imagine that. If you don't mind writing that feels a little stuck in a previous era, and are willing to overlook some of the continuity issues, then you're curious about what might have been, you might get a kick out of these. God bless Stan Lee and all the comics creators that gave us the characters we enjoy to this day. That'll do it for this season, and hopefully I'll see you next January. In the meantime, check out other videos on my channel, and take care. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, have I got issues.